Welcome everybody, another connectingdirectors.com supplier spotlight. I'm super excited to have Brant from Obit here today. This is a new service and I'm pretty excited about it. Brant and I've been able to talk off camera. There's a lot of value in what he's providing. So Brant, go ahead and introduce yourself and then tell us about Obit.
Thanks, Ryan, and thanks for having me on. My name's Brant Fischer. I'm the founder of Obit, the modern obituary platform. About 10 years ago, I lost a close friend, and I realized we do a pretty poor job of remembering people online. And at the same time, you saw the effectiveness of a newspaper obituary diminish while prices stayed the same. Average obituary costs $400, and it can get as expensive as several thousand, depending on the publication. So as a result of that, you've seen people move to posting on social media. When someone passes away, there's this outpouring of support, emotion, memorials, condolences, and donations. And it's fragmented across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and GoFundMe. And as a result, remembrance has no home. And so we built Obit as a social platform to be that home, to bridge that outpouring of support back to the family, but also in a way that brings that support back to the funeral home as well.
I love it. I mean, the funeral home, if they can be at the crux of that remembrance, there's continual brand value and awareness that happens there. So what is the benefit of Obit for funeral homes?
Sure. So we're a free online obituary platform. We offer free live streaming through our mobile app, Obit Live, as well as a crowdfunding tool to help families in time of need, to help them fund funeral costs, or to help donate to a charity of the family's choice. And we also do a revenue share for flower sales with funeral homes. So on the donation side, a lot of the times you hear about people crowdfunding funeral costs. And the sad reality is when you speak to funeral directors, a lot of the times they're not seeing those funds come in. They're still having trouble collecting. And so we built Obit in a way that funeral homes sign up, they can add their bank account, and then any donations that get made for a crowdfunding campaign go direct deposited into their bank account. There's no middleman, there's no trouble collecting. And then the more you share that Obit, the more you bring the community together, the easier it's going to be to help fund that funeral. And the beauty of this is, you've seen this kind of race to the bottom with cremation specifically, in terms of pricing. You see cremations advertised for $5.95. And so with crowdfunding and becoming a more normalized way of paying for a funeral, funeral homes are actually able to keep their prices where they are instead of bringing them down and hurting their own margins. And then on the flower side, most funeral home web providers are able to give 10 to 15% commissions to funeral homes. If you're a bigger funeral home, 400, 500 call home, they may put you in the 15 to 20% bracket. We're able to be really competitive here and give 20% to everyone across the board, no matter how big or small your funeral home is. And then lastly, what I would mention is Obit's here to help build efficiency for your funeral home. You'd be surprised to learn about how cumbersome the obituary writing and posting process is for funeral directors. They spend hours going back and forth with the family, making sure all the information's correct, names are spelled correctly, relationships are input correctly. And then it's a lot of back and forth with the newspaper to get that final cut published. And it takes a lot of time away from their core competencies. Funeral directors aren't making money off of obit writing. All that money goes to the newspapers. And so by streamlining this process on Obit, we're creating efficiency for the funeral home and allowing them to focus on their core competency and the things that affect their bottom line, selling burial, cremation, memorial services, caskets. And each family's different. And so we made Obit flexible in that you can post an Obit as a funeral home or as a family member. If you're posting as a funeral home, we give you the opportunity to add the family as a manager. And that way they can go in and edit or update any information. If the family posts the Obit, we ask them to tag the funeral home. And that does two things. It allows the funeral home to verify the Obit. And it also gives the funeral home a nice little piece of real estate on the Obit, which basically serves an advertisement for them. And for the funeral homes, if you're not on Obit, the families aren't going to be able to tag you. So that's just another note for the funeral directors to.
I love that. And you mentioned in that the funeral home website. So a lot of funeral home websites offer, some of the things that you're talking about. How's Obit going to be better and more beneficial to the funeral home than the website provider?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan, and it's one that a lot of funeral directors ask me. There's two main points, and first I'll talk about creating loyalty, and the second is that your obit is an advertisement. So on the loyalty side, 95% of the families that we speak to don't want their memories and condolences to live on a funeral home's website. They view it as a business website, a place to learn about the services that are offered, not a social network and a place that they can store their memories and condolences of their lost loved one. So for a funeral director, when you tell a family about this service, Obit, you can post an Obit for free. You can instantly start sharing the arrangements with family and friends, and you can come together in a more intimate space. They're going to have a better experience, and they're going to remember who sent them there. And that creates trust, and trust creates loyalty, and loyalty leads to future business.
Sure.
And one thing we've talked about is the newspaper Obit, while it's no longer effective, it gave families a sense of pride and nostalgia to see their loved one in print. And online obits exist on funeral home websites, but like we discussed, they're really just kind of checking a box and not really providing a better service for families. And so we built Obit specifically with beautiful design, specifically to give them that sense of pride and nostalgia seeing their loved ones online. And then to the next point, advertising. Your obituary is your number one form of advertising. Just like a restaurant has their website and they're on Seamless and DoorDash and Caviar and Postmates and Resy. The same goes for funeral homes and Obit. This is about discovery. And by being on Obit, you're putting your funeral business out there in a place where people that didn't know about your business before can learn about it. And with your Obit being your number one form of advertising, you want to get that off of your website out into social spaces, shared and cemented online with links back to your website. So that'll help increase your lead generation and SEO.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the Obit is the funeral home's number one form of advertising. And interestingly enough, you mentioned the tie with Facebook and social there. So like across social with the 200 plus funeral homes that we're managing social content for, Obits are the least engaging piece of content because the consumer isn't going to the funeral home's website, or I'm sorry, the funeral home's Facebook page for an Obit stream. So having a place where it can be social, it's much more social from the family on Facebook, but then having somewhere publicly that is designed for that social interaction, I think could be really valuable, especially if the funeral home's branded across that and they're on that platform as well. So good stuff. Tell me a little bit about how the business model has changed and been affected through the pandemic and COVID-19.
Sure. Yeah, so Obit's a passion project, something I've been working on for years before the pandemic hit. But what the pandemic did do was it made us realize there's not a really good funeral industry specific live streaming solution. So we built Obit Live as a mobile app, giving funeral directors more flexibility to stream from anywhere. Live streaming is not new to the funeral industry, but it's predominantly been hardware based. Company will come in and install a camera in your funeral home. There's thousands of dollars in installation, hundreds of dollars of monthly fees. And we built, there's two things that are really important to us when we built Obit Live. And one was it being mobile. Families have changed. They want a more intimate experience. And funeral directors need to be flexible and nimble. And having that your live streaming capability in your pocket gives the funeral directors the ability to live stream from anywhere at any time.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I mean, the free live streaming is really unheard of. At the start of the pandemic, only about 25% of funeral homes in the United States had the ability to live stream overnight. Just talked to a funeral home this week that spent $80K installing live streaming equipment, audio-visual things. I mean, to have a free live stream is going to be pretty valuable. So tell me a little bit about how Obit Live works.
Yeah. So that's we thought it was important to make it free because we want there to be no hesitation in family and funeral homes using it. So how it works is through the Obit posting process, you can input service details. And when you put in your service details, which could be for a funeral service, celebration of life. You can actually have someone set up a live stream eulogy. If they're in another state, they can broadcast that. And so once you put in that service detail, it creates an event which gets sent automatically to the Obit Live app. So once you open up that app, click on the event, click go live, you'll get a 3-second countdown. Hold your phone horizontally so that it records back to Obit correctly. And then it'll start live streaming back on that person's Obit page where family and friends can gather together and watch that live stream. And the beauty of it is it's not just a live stream. The recording actually stays up, so family and friends can come back and rewatch that. And specifically if they want to come back and watch the eulogy, it's a nice added feature that they're able to do.
I love that. The on-demand is going to be extremely valuable because there's a lot of people who still can't make a live stream, right? But they can go back and watch the on-demand and still have the social experience, which is pretty powerful. So, all right. My other company is Disrupt Media. We consider ourselves disruptors in the profession, just by the things that we offer, the way we talk, the way we're doing things and changing the game. Do you consider yourself a disruptor as well with what you're doing?
So funeral homes are being disrupted by the pandemic and by families changing their needs. We want to be here to help guide them through the changing times. I don't think you'll find another industry that's 90% owned by family businesses. It's fascinating.
Right.
These are mom and pop operations with 1 or 2 people in a lot of funeral homes running the show. And in many cases, they've been passed down from generation to generation and been around for 50 to 150 years. And so with Obit, we want to make sure that we're helping guide and promote these funeral businesses for the next 100 years.
I love it, man. I love it. So if a funeral home's watching this and they're like, yo, this sounds dope, how do they get in contact with you? How do they get signed up? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so go to joinobit.com, joinobit.com, create an account, and then select Add My Funeral Home on the homepage. That'll take you through the onboarding process. It's quick and easy. And then you can go ahead to the Apple or Android App Store to download Obit Live, the live streaming app. If you have any questions, you can go to our footer where we'll have some interactive videos to help you through the process. And you can always reach out to us at hi@joinobit.com.
Love it. Love it. Well, Brant, hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a part of the profession and bringing a new twist on how funeral homes can connect, engage with consumers. You talked about loyalty. We talk a lot about relationships. 80% of funeral home business is relationship driven. So using technology to build those relationships, that conversation has never been more at the forefront than right now. So timing is good. Wish you the best of luck. And again, if you're watching this and you're interested in finding out more, go to joinobit.com. Thanks, Brant, for coming on.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.